Welcome back, and now, dear viewers, we are going to talk about the outcome of President Fattah al-Sisi's visit to China, in which he participated in China-Africa Forum and witnessed the signing of many memoranda of understandings and agreements with different Chinese companies. Also, we will talk about his current visit to Uzbekistan and its importance, and we are joined here by Mr. Hany Aboul. He's an economic expert. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Mr. Hany, the present visit was very important, during which many memorandums of understanding were signed, including that between the chairman of the Suez Canal Industrial Zone, Vice Admiral Mohab Mamish, and several investors. How do you see these memorandums of understanding, especially when it comes to the logistic area of the Suez Canal Zone?
The inking of the 5 agreements or 5 MOUs between Egypt and China marks a very important step to the development of the global trade and boosts the relationship, the economic relationship between Egypt and China. Our viewers also understand and realize that the Suez Canal area is a unique zone for global trade and provide unique opportunities for the investors and for supporting the international trade, which is expected to yield foreign currency, hard currencies to Egypt and benefit and boost the economy in Egypt. So these are very important, and I think these initiatives have been well prepared, and I hope that similar initiatives or similar agreements will be signed in the futures with other partners.
Also today, President Fattah al-Sisi arrived in Uzbekistan, and he's expected to hold meetings with his counterpart and witness also the signing of different agreements. So in your opinion, what is the significance of this visit?
This visit also is a landmark for the relationship between Egypt and Uzbekistan. Particularly, it is the first visit by an Egyptian president to Uzbekistan since 1950s.
So it was ignored actually for many years.
Yes, as you know that Uzbekistan was part of the former Soviet Union, and the country is rich with its resources, and the expectations that the mutual cooperations on economic and political levels would benefit both countries.
Well, before we continue our talk, it's worth mentioning that Egypt and Uzbekistan share strong bilateral relations, including religious, cultural, and political relations. Only 4 months after Uzbekistan had announced its independence on August 31st, 1991, Egypt recognized the independence of the Central Asian nation. The 35-year-old Soviet Union consisted of 15 republics, including Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Armenia. In January 1992, Kemal Al-Ganzouri, then Deputy Prime Minister, visited Tashkent, where a mutual statement to establish diplomatic relations between the two nations was signed. In December of the same year, Islam Karimov, former Uzbek president, visited Cairo on the head of a high-level delegation, and we can see scenes of the reception of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the Uzbek capital right now on our screen. And during the visit, many memorandums of understanding are expected to be signed as well. Returning back to Islam Karimov's visit to Egypt, during the visit, an agreement establishing the relations and cooperation means between the two countries was signed, in addition to an economic and scientific cooperation agreement. was signed beside agreements of air transport and investment. In May 1993, Egypt opened its embassy in Tashkent. In September of the same year, an agreement concerning Islamic affairs was signed between the two states. The Uzbek embassy in Cairo was officially opened in 1995. The two states shared healthy relations along the 21st century. Addressing a ceremony marking the 26th anniversary of the Independence Day of the Uzbekistan, the ambassador of Cairo at that time voiced his country's condemnation of the different or the collaboration between Egypt and Uzbekistan as well. The trade relations between the two countries valued at about 1.5 million US dollars in 2016, as well as the value does not seem satisfying, but it's still going to continue with further cooperation, and it's expected to rise after the president's visit. Uzbekistan ranks 111th in terms of investments volume, which investors can benefit from the huge investments offered to foreign investors through a network of free trade agreements signed with a number of countries.
Yes, Sasha, are mentioning now that there is a huge job opportunities of investments between the two countries. So how can we attract more Uzbek investors to Egypt, especially in the New Suez Canal region?
I think that the Ministry of Investment and the GAFI, they have already developed investment plan.
Yes.
And the investment plan and map, the investment plan, shows the potential opportunities.
Yes.
And Egypt should, in fact, promote these opportunities to the Uzbek partners and send envoys to explain and meet with the investors and explain the benefits that they would attain by injecting some investments in Egypt, particularly in the Suez Canal zone. They will have unique opportunities that actually don't exist anywhere in the world, and the potentiality for making good business and profits for both parties do exist.
Now, during President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's visit to China, there was a roundtable conducted, and one of the important issues discussed was the Belt and Road Initiative. So how do you see that?
Alongside the FOCAC meetings, FOCAC stands for Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. Egypt has inked 5 agreements, and the VBRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, indeed will benefit the member countries, member countries who signed or who are party to this initiative. Reach these days around 68 countries. China promised to inject $150 billion every year in mega projects connecting the East, the Asian part of the world, of the continent, to the Middle East and Europe, passing through Turkey. These projects include gas projects, electricity, tunnels, and other huge projects which every country who has participated or is taking part in this forum will benefit from it. Egypt, of course, will be a unique opportunity because it is a major logistic area, and the trade lines between the East and West must pass through Egypt and the Suez Canal as well.
Also, sir, Egypt will assume the presidency of the AU soon, and which will make its role more effective. So will you on how can it play a role in boosting Chinese-African cooperation in general?
I think that Egypt will play a very important role in this area. Particularly, Egypt has taken a major part in boosting some of the important subjects and files in trade and in the global war against terrorism. Egypt having its unique expertise in some areas, while Africa is rich with resources which are largely underutilized. So Egypt can launch some of the projects, the joint projects in Africa, using its expertise, skilled manpower, and use its relations with counterparts in other parts of the world for boosting these projects by making multilateral agreements with the member states.
Now, one of the important memorandums of understanding was the signing of the project of the electric train. The draft of it was signed in Xiamen in 2017 on the sidelines of the BRICS, but now the memorandum is fulfilled. We're expecting, hopefully, that the project would start. The importance of the electric train, which will connect the administrative capital with the 10th of Ramadan, passing through As-Salam, Bilbis, and other areas. How do you see that?
I see that as an imperative step for connecting the new capital with the old city, with the old capital, because without making proper connectivity, means of transportation, convenient means of transportations, the use or the utilization of the new would be largely impaired. So it is very important that convenient transportation should be in place alongside with the other projects which will be implemented in the new capital.
So also China announced that it will build the large coal energy for producing coal energy from coal in the Middle East. The biggest factory will be built in Egypt, and this is a very important cooperation in the field of energy between the two countries. So how can Egypt benefit from this important coal factory?
Generally speaking,
Yes.
the use of or generating energy from coal is a trend that
Yes.
has been in the past, has been active in the past, and is being used these days because of the soaring prices of the oil. So coal is a natural alternative for using the oil. It's cheaper, it's far cheaper. So Egypt, as you know, that we are importing, we pay high bill for importing crude oil for every year, and Egypt subsidizes the fuel prices. So if we have a cheap or a relatively cheaper source of energy from coal, it would be benefit for the country. So I think I support this initiative, this memorandum of understanding. The building of this complex is very good for the economy.
Now, during his visit, the President also visited the Communist Party Academy. And it's a very important academy for preparing the different officials and cadre, and it's an important educational institution. How can we benefit from the Chinese expertise in that field, in the field of education, preparing the officials before they start taking their role and performing in the government?
China has a well-developed education system. They have as well very good cadres for preparing officials to assume the public roles. Of course, if Egypt can sign and benefit from having this expertise transferred to Egypt.
Yes.
I think this should help us in preparing young officials to assume their roles more efficiently inadequately.
We'll continue talking about the China-Africa Forum and the President's participation in it. But let's first talk with Mr. Amir Nabil, and he's a journalist and he's with us on the phone. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How do you see the significance of the visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Uzbekistan, sir?
The visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Uzbekistan is the third stop for him with his tour, which started with
Bahrain?
Yes, 3 states now, and this is the last one, the last stop of him. I think Uzbekistan is an important country to be visited by an Egyptian president since the 50s. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is the first Egyptian president to visit Uzbekistan since the 50s, which makes some sense about how important this country in the vision of President Sisi, while he is trying to make strong ties with Russia and with the former Soviet Union states, and the relations in terms of trade, in terms of economy, political ties, and how he is open-minded about making new markets for the Egyptian goods and services at this particular area, which is sometimes be forgotten by some presidents in the Middle East. This means that Egypt is open to the whole world, to different regions of the world, to make new ties, which is making a good importance for the Egyptian vision, the Egyptian strategies worldwide in combating terrorism, in making stronger ties in trade-wise, and all of that.
So, Mr. Amir, what kind of cooperation agreements are expected to be signed between the two countries today?
All the time, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is care about making good relations with such states in terms of economy, in terms of making meetings with the businessmen in the particular states, making something like discussion about how we are seeing the Egyptian market, the Egyptian intellectual and the culture, and how we will make something like participation or available participation for the businessmen coming from different regions of the world. So in terms of economy, this is, I think, first step of thinking of President Sisi, and then the political ties and the security ties, and how Egypt is care about making good relations with different regions of the world, to participate, if they are potential participators for the Egyptian mega projects like Suez Canal Hub, like the mega projects here and there. So he is trying to be open to listen to their needs, to correct sometimes anything happening there at that time.
In February 2018, an Uzbek group of businessmen came to visit Egypt for economic cooperation, and especially in the field of engineering. What do we need in Egypt to promote and to encourage investors, especially from the eastern part of Europe?
I think President Fattah al-Sisi is taking delegates with him, delegation of the government from the specialists in engineering sectors, in the electricity. They are explaining for the businessmen in Uzbekistan how the benefits they will take from participating in such projects in Egypt, like the renewable energy projects, and how they can make use of the human resources and natural resources of Egypt. Egypt is a very rich country, and it is a very particular geographical place in the world, in the heart of the world. He's trying to explain all of that and making discussion between mutual projects and mutual relations between the businessmen here and there.
Okay, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Amir Nabil, journalist, for being with us. And now we'll go for a short break and we'll be back. Welcome back, dear viewers, and we are still hosting Mr. Hany, Aboul Fotouf, economic expert. So, Mr. Hany, if we look at Egypt's geographical location, we see that it is considered a gate to Africa. So, how can Egypt benefit from this geographical location?
Indeed, Egypt is a hub, a logistical hub and indeed it is a gate to Africa.
Yes.
Its unique location provides connectivity, easy connectivity for global trade. So we have different ports in the Red Sea and in the Mediterranean. Any shipments, any trade coming from the Americans, from the Europe, from Asia, would certainly use the different ports in Egypt for transshipment to Africa. So instead of making long route journey, maritime lines, so Egypt is in the middle, and the Egyptian ports could be used for transshipment to Africa.
And actually, we are joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister and Secretary General of the Arab Investors Union. Good morning, Mr. Ambassador.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. So, Mr. Ambassador, now President Fattah al-Sisi is visiting Uzbekistan. So, tell us more about the importance of this visit.
Uzbekistan is an old partner in foreign trade because it was a part of the old Soviet Union. That's why we didn't hear about it before.
Yes.
Now, after the independence of these countries, Uzbekistan became a very important target for us. It's a middle-sized country, 35 million inhabitants, and we have to restore this important market because we are seeking to increase our exports nowadays as a way to create more jobs and to attract more investment. And I think our president will do this with other countries like Uzbekistan. And Uzbekistan is well known to us now. There is a piece of news this morning that an airway line will be established. This is good news for businessmen who can go and establish their position in this old new market. And don't forget that the old Soviet Union was the first partner to Egypt in foreign trade, and this position has been deteriorated since the 70s. Now it is a good opportunity to enlarge our foreign trade, our exports, then our investment also. All of these actions are seeking create more jobs for our young people who are seeking to have jobs in their future, immediate future. This will enhance the position of our farmers because Uzbekistan is a good market to import our agricultural commodities. We can also benefit from the experience of Uzbekistan in its area concerning investment, concerning technical cooperation and economic cooperation also.
Mr. Ambassador, you've just mentioned the economic cooperation, and that will lead us to talking about the Uzbek-Egyptian Business Forum, which will start tomorrow on the 5th of September. The importance of it and the expectations, Your Excellency.
This is the new type of diplomacy, the diplomacy of airports, the diplomacy of leadership. And I am sure that there are many businessmen in this visit with the president. And here you can make what we call people-to-people approach, that a businessman from Egypt can see his counterpart from Uzbekistan to study and to learn what Uzbekistan is in need in order to produce this and export it to Uzbekistan. What are the products of Uzbekistan which we can make use of it? So this is a sort of direct contact between the business community in Egypt and the business community in Uzbekistan.
So, sir, in your opinion, what are the topics expected to be tackled during summit talks today?
We talk about trade, of course, and we want to make the balance of trade a sort of a balanced situation, because we need to export more. We talk about investment and the investment opportunity, whether investing in Uzbekistan itself, or attracting Uzbekistanis to come and invest in Egypt. We talk about tripartite cooperation between the two countries in Africa or anywhere else in order to enlarge the relations and the possibility of deepening our relation with this good part of the world.
Mr. Ambassador, the relations itself between Egypt and Uzbekistan goes back to 1991 when we first recognized its independence from the Soviet Union when it collapsed. And ever since then, it's mentioned as strong economic ties, especially that this year in February, a group of businessmen came and visited Egypt in 2018 to look into the perspectives of economic relations, and especially in the fields of engineering. What do we need in Egypt to be able to promote the Uzbek investments, and especially in the field of engineering and, of course, other economic fields?
First, we need to continue the dialogue, the visits, to exchange visits between our businessmen and those Pakistani businessmen also. We have to talk to them and to see what are they aiming at in order to furnish the arena with what they need. We have to make our bureaucracy less and less. We have to welcome the foreign direct investment. I am always complaining that our mass media is not well serving attracting investment in general, and especially foreign investment. They do not know what they are talking. They are seeking the time where we were producing everything through government. Now we are in a free economy all over the world, even in Russia itself, even in China, and we have to welcome any contribution concerning investment, whether it's coming from Egyptian living abroad, Arabs, or foreigners coming from this important old new area where we have experience with them. Everything is on the table, and we have to discuss seriously how to attract investment, how to attract a serious economic cooperation between Egypt and those countries.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, as well as Secretary General of the Arab Investors Union. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this phone call. And Mr. Hany, we were speaking about the importance of the visit to Uzbekistan. Before that, we were talking about the importance of the visit of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to China as well. And one of the memorandums of understanding signed were that of to help give us a loan to help in the manufacturing of the Egyptian satellite. So how do you see that, and how can we benefit from the Chinese technology?
China is very well positioned in technology. They use the most advanced technology in many areas, in many domains. Of course, Egypt, if they have ambitious dream to build the Egyptian satellite, the ideal partner would be China, because we benefit from the good relations, the historical relations between the two states, the two partners, and this, of course, would help us to have our own satellite, Egyptian-made satellite. And I think I recommend that this initiative should continue with other partners as well.
Okay, Mr. Hany Aboul Fotouf, economic expert. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, dear viewers, we'll go for a short break, and we'll be back to stage.